Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Spirit-Centered Business. I'm Bralynn, and I have Daniel with me. I'm going to introduce in just a minute, but I did want to let you guys know that the Spirit-Centered Business Vault is now open. This is teachings from experts from all over the world that had been teaching on the Spirit-Centered Business Academy a couple of years ago. And some of those teachings are so great that we decided to just open the vault and let people access them. So it's on spiritcenteredbusiness.com and click the vault button. So that's over there. Quantum Capacity is coming back up again, the Quantum Capacity Business Challenge, where we work on our inner world. Have we stretched out our tent pegs in order to receive everything that God wants for us? You know, what is our capacity? And are there any filters on our capacity for what he wants to receive? That challenge is coming up in March, so be watching for that as well. I think that's all my housekeeping. So Daniel Jedidiah Cook, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Bralynn. It is such an honor to be here with you today. There's, of course, we've worked together before on several things with Kingdom Talks with Gil and Adina, as well as the Next Stagers, and those conversations have always been good.
Yes, they are. We recently did a Next Stagers, so that was a lot of fun.
That's right.
So I just wanted to introduce you to the peeps, but I want to get the story of how you've blended your spiritual walk and all of the revelation that you've gotten. You've got a lot of stuff on living letters. You've gotten a lot of stuff on just Hebrew kind of concepts and stuff like that. So how have you blended that into your business? We want to hear the story.
Well, I'm glad. To be honest with you, started years ago when Father took us into a place where really I was struggling. And then I know a lot of folks that, especially in business now, may have started at one time having struggled first and then saying, you know what? No, I've got to get out of this. I've got to do something for myself. And I've got to be able to have a business where then the Father really has a place for us to be able to grow and for us to bless him. I don't want to work for the man all the rest of my life.
Right.
I don't want to, work for somebody else. And the same thing was true with me. And Father I began to cry out in this place of just wanting to know more about who he is. I've been a Christian all my life and had understood faith, from years ago. I loved Kenneth Copeland and Kenneth Hagin and all those guys that were part of the faith ministries for years. And they laid a great foundation, but my mind, my concepts, the way that I saw things was still not right. I had different ways of seeing things, and as a result, it seemed like I had a place at a time where I would use the faith words to be able to speak things into existence, and it worked. But the problem was that I hadn't built up, if you will, the matrix inside of the faith inside of myself to be able to hold that treasure. And so I remember not too terribly long ago, I was speaking with a good friend of mine, and I heard, and something came up out of my spirit that shocked me, because it wasn't anything that I was thinking about specifically, but I recognized it immediately as something from the word of the Lord. And that was that I said, the words of the mouth form the matrix, that the intent of the heart forms the matrix that the words of the mouth have the ability to develop and grow in. And I began
Say that again. I love that. Say that again.
The intent of the heart forms the matrix that the words of the mouth have the ability to develop and grow in.
Perfect. Thank you.
And it began to challenge me, because the moment I said it, I was like, ooh, now there's more to that. There's more to what I just said there than just the statement. And I really began to spend a lot of time beginning to dig into and finding out why the Father had said that through me, because these were words that came up just from out of my spirit, man. And as I began to dive into it, Yahweh began to show me this place of where for many, many years, I had the intention of poverty. I really had this intention of thinking, well, who am I really to be able to be blessed? Who am I to really be able to be successful? And I'll be honest with you, I was really bad with self-fulfilling prophecies. I would say,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being truthful here. I mean, you know me already, Bralynn, in the sense where I'm just me. I'm going to tell you things the way they happen to me, whether it paints me in a good picture or not. I don't care. My heart is that I know what the Father has done in me now, and I know how that has changed my life. And if just one little thing that I say can spark something in someone else, then thank you, Father, that you've allowed the seed of your word to be able to grow in this place. And you've planted a seed in someone else who's then taking that onto fruition, onto that place of where there's an abundance of fruit. And what happened was I began to realize that if the intent of my heart formed the matrix, then this intention of poverty would be just that. It's kind of like building a house. And so if, let's say that I need 100 2x4s in order to build the start of my house, the framing out of my house. But because of poverty, I say, well, I can get away with 30. And I begin to frame up the house. Well, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Right? I
Sure.
frame up the house with 30 and I really needed 100. Then I go to try to put the roof on top with only these 30 that I was able to just jimmy in the right place. Do you think that roof or anything that's above would be able to handle the weight of what I had formed on the bottom part of the framing of the house? No, of course not. Or let's say even better yet, fortunately, I live in the South, so we don't have snow very often. So it's not anything we have to worry about here.
Where do you live?
In Mobile, Alabama.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah, so we get it like once every 500 years. Definitely. Not quite. We actually had snow. It's been about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago now that really came down like real snow. I mean, I was like,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, it was like, people were freaking out around here because it was just so unusual. We had a light dusting. You could still see the grass through it. But for here, that was like just never heard of.
Yeah.
Fluffy white snow. And usually it's an ice storm that we get down here if we get anything. But anyway, let's say that this house was up north, and where do you live, Bralynn? Or what area?
Well, I'm in North Carolina now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So, but in North Carolina, you guys get a little bit of snow every once in a while, right?
We got 4 flakes the other day.
4? Okay. Well,
I did see 4 flakes go by the window as it was trying to snow.
well, there you go. I know up in the mountains in North Carolina, they get a little bit more snow.
Yes, in the mountains they do.
Yeah. And I love North Carolina. I was born and raised in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And so North Carolina was my old stomping grounds, especially the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's God's country is out there.
Yeah.
So anyway, the snow, let's say that this roof now is holding it. I've got the 30 2x4s across my house. I've got this proper roof because I knew I needed a good roof. But yet when the snow came, again, the house would not be able to handle. And I can't tell you how many times that's indeed what happened to me. Because I knew that the word said that if I would speak to the mountain to be removed and be cast into the sea, that it would, and did not doubt in my heart. But yet in the same breath, have this intention in my heart of like, yeah, but who are you? There was always that little voice that probably stops most people from going into business in the first place, that says, oh, but who are you? Can you really do that? Do you really think that that's possible? I mean, think about what you did last week. Think about what you did when you were a kid. Think about what all these adversarial, if you will, the adversary that was coming in and trying to talk us out of the very things that we knew that the Father had said that we could do. Mm-hmm. And for me, it really began to make sense because I can tell you at least several times where my wife and I had some other businesses. We had a photography business back in Georgia for a while. And it actually did fairly well. But then we decided to move to Alabama and we stopped that business. But again, I made some mistakes along the way because of this intention in my heart of poverty. And I had to really first begin to address that and how my heart had turned in that place to poverty. But I remember when I first started to, Yahweh first began to show me and reveal to me about the living letters. He took me into a place of what that I now call the secret place. And when I went in there, it was a room of absolute darkness. And I'm going to cut through a lot of the story because there's a lot more here that I could go into. But he took me into this place of darkness where suddenly this fire began to grow inside of my chest. And that's funny because although I had been a Christian all my life, I was a little offended because I was thinking, Father, are you saying that there's never been a fire in my heart? I mean, I'm just being real and being me, but it was one of those things that first hit me like, what are you doing? But I knew that as I remained quiet, I began to realize that what he was telling me was he was doing something new in me. And yes, I had a fire in my heart, but he wanted to get rid of some other things that I had held on to. One of those things being that intention of poverty that I'd had from before. Mm-hmm. And as this fire began to grow, I remember one day I was looking around and I saw this glint or the sparkle out of the right side of my eye. And I walked over to it and picked it up. And it was this beautiful cut sapphire stone. And anytime that I've ever received anything like that, especially the first time, I've been taught well from pastors and our pastor here at Gates of Zion, Aaron Smith. He had taught years ago about first fruit offerings. And so as soon as I saw this, I realized the Father was saying, I needed to give this as a first fruit offering back to him. So I reached up with this sapphire stone and I went to give it to the Lord. And he looked at me, he says, no, this is not for me. This is for you. He said, as a matter of fact, I want you to look again. And so I began to look again. And as I surveyed around me, I saw this multitude of sapphire stones. And as I said, and he said, what I want you to do is every day that you can think about this, I want you to come back to this place and I want you to pick up these sapphire stones and I'm going to show you where I want you to put them. And I want you to build this structure that I instruct you to build. Now, to be honest with you, the first time that he said that, I thought, okay, well, you know what? I could probably do this in just about 15 minutes. I'll go in here and just hurry up and collect all the sapphire stones that I can, and then build whatever that it was that he wanted me to. But as I was thinking about that, there was something inside of my spirit man that said, whoa, 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 whoa. No. This is something that he's taking you through in a different part of the plan for what he's trying to show in you. You see, from that mindset of poverty, there was this place of instant gratitude, of instant, like, I need to get to the end of this quickly because I want to be able to move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But the Spirit of the Lord wouldn't allow me to do that. And I am so thankful that I took the time to be able to walk through every step of that. Now, I hope you can kind of see that I'm giving it an analogy, not only of a spiritual thing that happened in me, but actually a plan in business, where as we go through things, sometimes we try to rush things a little bit quicker than we need to, and suddenly have gone further than we need to, and never really thought that quickness and that speed or that heart of trying to hurry up and get it done might be actually an attitude of poverty. But it was for me. It was
Good
for me.
Point. It's great revelation.
Yeah. I'm not going to judge anyone else in that, but I can tell you it was for me. Okay. So what I did was over the next 3 to 4 weeks, I can't remember now exactly how long it was. It might have even been 5 weeks. Literally 2 or 3 times a day, 4 times a day, as often as I would think about it, I would close my eyes and I would meditate and would go back to that place where I saw those sapphire stones. And every day Yahweh began to show me the pattern of how he wanted me to lay out these sapphire stones. They were being built together to form something. If you will, they were the forming of that matrix that I was telling you about, except this time it wasn't a matrix of poverty. It was a matrix of abundance. It was a matrix of his purpose, because for me, prosperity doesn't only mean, yes, it means finances. Yes, absolutely. There's a part that we have to have finances in order to be able to do and to go. But for me, it was more than that. It was in spiritual revelation. It was in understanding. Bralynn, it was in two things that I probably needed more than anything else: trust and confidence. That's what we talked about during that last Next Agers, the ones that we did here with Spirit-Centered Business. We talked a lot about that. And so I began to finish this structure. And then about 4 or 5 weeks later, I finally completed the structure. And as I was meditating on this, now for me, meditation, I'm not necessarily talking about the Om thing. But for me, it's just sitting quietly before the Lord. All right. I don't know. Sometimes people are a little funny about when you say the word meditation. So, just, okay.
Get
good.
over it.
Okay, good. Because to me, it's not necessarily the Om thing, but it is, there's breathing techniques. There's a place of quieting my mind. There's a place of cutting off every other voice except the voice of the Lord's. And then focusing on him and his light, and focusing on what he's trying to show me. And in doing so, it quiets those thoughts. It quiets those, if you will, that adversarial mind trick that's going on inside of our mind, that's trying to talk us out of the very thing that the Father wants to use to be able to bless us, to allow us to grow. And so as I was meditating on this one day, it suddenly hit me, and I realized that there were many situations in my life where I'd had very difficult times. And in these difficult times, most of them were of my own making. They were, I'm not going to lie to you. There were times when my wife and I, when we were first married, we struggled financially for years. And a lot of it had to do with plain and simple selfishness. It really did. Most of it being on my part. Okay, I will take the blame. I'm not going to blame her for it. A lot of it was on my part, because there'd be times that I'd be like, hey, I want this, and she'd say no, and I'd say, well, forget you, I'm going to go get it anyway. And of course, in the meantime, boy, I'm just being real open here, aren't I? And I hope that's okay with your folks. But hey, come on, this is real, right?
It's real, and it's not like that's never happened to me or anybody else.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's a common thing, and isn't it funny that the instant gratification and getting something that you want is an indicator of a poverty mindset. Just going out and getting it. Oh, that's okay. It's 100 payments of whatever, XYZ. Nope, I can handle that.
Right.
No problem.
And then 10 payments in, it's suddenly like, oh my
right.
God.
I only have 90 to go. What? Yeah.
Well, not only that, but maybe the payments were so far out of the budget of being able to handle something, it was stretching. So it was a poverty mindset. It's like, I've got to prove to everybody else that I'm something more than I really have the ability to handle right at the moment.
Oh my gosh, you totally remind me of this guy who bought a Corvette, and I'm a car girl. So I was like, oh, okay, how many payments would it take for me to get a Corvette? This was like in college, right? Like I had the budget then, right?
Yep. No,
oh my gosh,
understood. Understood. And we, then it does, what does that do? It extends us beyond our ability of being able to handle something.
Right.
And the truth is that the Father wants to bless us, but there's a process of walking through. There is a protocol. Right. There is a place of maturity.
I was just going to say,
that for me was what I really needed more than anything else. Because truth is selfishness is really a true sign of immaturity. It's a place where we wrap up and think, oh, it's got to be just because of what I want and what I need. And it's funny because the Hebrew people have a very unique concept when it talks about this. And I feel led to bring this up real quick in talking about this, and it's something that we've said before, but from a Christian perspective, I just don't hear that much. So the idea is this, that when Yahweh created us, he created us as being vessels, and vessels that need to be filled. I heard a preacher one time, a long time ago, saying like this, let's say this was the clay of the earth, and Yahweh took his hand and he imprinted himself into this clay, and then in a sense removed himself from that place. Now he left a part of himself behind, because that's the part that our hearts cry out for, to be more like him. But he left behind this vessel. Now, how many times in church have we said, fill my cup, Lord, fill me to overflowing? So this is not going out for a stretch. This is stuff that we've talked about, but have we ever really stopped to think about it? You see, the Father always gives. He always gives. He made us to always receive. And so in order for us to really be like our Father, we have to be able to receive of him. But what is the intention of our heart? If the intention of our heart is to keep what we receive from him only for ourselves, then we have a poverty mindset. We have that weak matrix that we're talking about. But when I change my intention of my heart to take not only what the Father has given me, but allow that for me to be able to give out of what he has already given me, it puts me in a place where there's this ever-flowing, ever-increasing place of his glory, of his grace, of his prosperity, of everything that he's given us. He pours that into me. It's kind of the picture that that he's given me is kind of like I can have a cup and a pitcher, and I can pour water into the pitcher. I can pour water from the pitcher into the cup. You get where I'm going. Into the cup, and then drink of it, but then the cup's empty again, right? Well, what if I took and put the cup inside of the full pitcher of water? Now that cup, no matter what happens, matter of fact, I'll just pick up the pitcher and start drinking out of the pitcher, but the idea is, what's happened to the cup? Well, the cup is so full that it's overflowing. I have found myself in him, and I have found myself to be like him, to want to give, to want to share. And sharing doesn't always necessarily mean just in tithes or offerings or that. I know that's a part of, that's part of the way that I'm able to make my living in our ministry, is through those who give in through our schools and trade and leverage and those things as well. But the truth is that I can give in the things that it's cost me, in the words that the Father has shown me. And there's other ways that I can give that go way beyond this. It's too much to get into right now. But the truth is that if as I begin to realize, hey, wait a minute, I want this matrix of the prosperity of my Father. So Father, I'm willing to give everything that you've given me, so that there's this constant flow of your grace and glory and your prosperity in my life. Then I have become just like you, because my Father always gives. Does that make sense? We hear it said, and I've even said this before, that Father, I want to do just like Yeshua did, who said, I only do what I see the Father do. Right. Well, what is the one thing that we can go back and say we know the Father always does? The Father always gives. The Father is always good. And so, from that place, we can then take and allow for our businesses to then be able to grow, because we're looking in this place of yes, making money. Yes, there's a necessary part of that. I'm not talking about giving away our wares. Have you ever really thought that now catch me here. Have you ever really thought that by creating a product that was so awesome that people were willing to be able to pay top dollar for that. And by buying that product, it made them happy. And by making them happy in the sense where now that product is able to help them in doing the things that they need to be able to do, that in that sense, by receiving the income from that, I'm actually giving, because I'm giving joy. I'm giving a piece. Yeah, a trade into that. Maybe it's not, because it's not always, remember, it's not always finances. There are other ways to be able to see this aspect of giving. And
it's all energy.
It's
an energetic giving. So the money just represents energy of some sort. It represents your blood, sweat, and tears of something you've created. And then it represents the joy, like you mentioned in there, and ability to do whatever they were working on easier, faster, better, more, whatever. It's that energy that they can then live life at a better level because of what they bought from you. So it's all energy.
That's right. It is. And it's a beautiful way of looking at things. So I'm glad you're catching what I'm talking about here. And although I have no doubt, I guess that I just not knowing your pace, your folks here, I'll be honest with you, I feel a little funny. I feel a little funny on the aspect of the business. Although I'm a business partner with two other people in a company called 28 Lines, and 28 Lines Incorporated. We're more of it's like social media and graphic arts and marketing and that sort of thing is a lot of what we do. And I've got two absolutely awesome business partners that work together with us. So I'm more of a consulting partner, and we look at my job is to really look at things on the spiritual aspect of them, and not necessarily just the business aspect. My other two partners deal more on the day-to-day and that sort of thing. But it's great because it actually fits with something in scripture where Issachar and Zebulon were very similar to that. That when Moses was, not Moses, but I lost my train of thought. It was Jacob, Zebulon. I believe it was Jacob was prophesying over his sons. I believe, yes, it was Jacob.
Okay.
And as he's speaking over them, he said, "Blessed are you, Issachar, in your tents, and Zebulon in your going out." Now, the backstory behind Issachar and Zebulon was that Issachar was the ones who looked into, they were more into the word. They were more into the spiritual aspect of things. They knew the Bible says that they knew the times and the seasons, and they understood the times and the seasons. But they saw it from more of that one-on-one with the Father. But Zebulon realized that in knowing these times and these seasons, that Issachar would be beneficial in being able to bring them in. And the Zebulon, which was the business group, they brought Issachar in and would have them speak to them about the times and the seasons and the things to prepare for certain things that were coming up and things that were going on at that time. And as a result, it made Zebulon very, very wealthy.
Right. And you don't even know this, but that's what we do in Heaven Down Business. We're literally meeting with the business owners and looking at what's going on in the spirit realm.
Did not know that.
Yeah. And so we can get them cleaned up. And, I do it in spirit-centered business with lie busting, but in Heaven Down Business, there's another aspect to it. So that's exactly what we do. And we can do it on an ongoing basis for companies and corporations who have lots of moving parts and pieces, and they don't have time to go check in the spirit realm about every little thing. So we can literally do that for people, just because of quantum entanglement. And that's another thing that you and I talked about earlier, is that the spirit realm is not a respecter of persons. So
No, and that's beautiful. I didn't realize that you were doing that, because that to me is a direct reflection of how each joint supplies, each one of us. Paul talked about that, where he was talking about the body and how each joint supplies to the other. And how, when some of us, like my focus is more on that one-on-one with the Father. That's just where I'm at home. That's the place where that I thrive the most at. But I have friends that are my business partners. Their focus is the business aspect of that. And so as a result, our company has grown, and it's still growing. We still got some growing left to do, but our company has grown tremendously just in the year or so that we've been together already. And it's Yahweh's really beginning to bless us greatly as a result of that. And even when it came to Issachar and Zebulon, the same thing was true of them, that really Zebulon and Issachar shared 50% of the profits. According to the Hebrew basis of that, the Hebrew story behind the story was that Zebulon gave 50% of their profits to Issachar as a way of allowing Issachar to also be blessed in this place of where Zebulon, of course, Zebulon was just taking way off. Reminds me of was it J.C. Penney? Wasn't it he who took and gave 90% of his income and only lived off the 10%?
Yeah, I don't know if he was the
it,
first, but I've heard several have done that. Yeah.
So it's kind of along those lines. So again, if there's any one thing that I would love to impart with to your folks today is just that, about the intent of our heart, and looking in that place of realizing the Father has given us so much. If we stop to really think about it, if I am in Him and He is in me, then I am living in that place as being that cup inside of, if you will, just using this as an analogy, the pitcher of my Father, and I'm fully surrounded by Him. It's kind of like a fish who lives in the middle of the ocean. Everything that fish needs is found in that water. Its breath, its prosperity, its food, its shelter, everything is found inside of there. Because in Him I live and move and have my being. How much more so when we grab a hold of this and not look at that water as just being little or nothing, but the very sustenance. And I'm talking about the Father here, that we begin to realize, hey, wait a minute, this is what I need more than anything else, and being in Him, and it will allow our businesses to grow just crazy. So.
Yeah, that is so good, Daniel. Thank you so much. I love that. In fact, it's just kind of timing, right? That the movie Matrix is out, and you were using the
Don't
Matrix.
Get me started.
I know, right? Let's not even get started on the movie Matrix. But you were talking about the poverty matrix, and then the rebuilding of that abundance or prosperity matrix. So I'm thinking maybe that's a good title for this show.
Yeah, there you go.
Something about, what is your money matrix? How about I'll do something like that? I don't know.
Sounds good.
By the time that you audience see this, you will know the title. All right. Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for this part one. What are we going to be talking about in part two? We're going to get into some Zim Zoom.
We could. I mean, you mentioned it just a moment ago. Although if we're not careful, we'll end up talking about Matrix Resurrections. But the quantum aspect of all of this, taking this not just from analogies and metaphors, but actually looking at it from, if you will, the atomic and the subatomic realm, and how everything in creation has been telling us this forever. And we've just not really taken the time to be able to see how a very atom itself can express itself in the way that it shares its electrons, and how that works in our businesses is to our heart and the intention of our heart and the way that we see things. So. Okay. All right. That's it. We're going quantum. Part two is quantum, something quantum. I don't know. Zim Zoom quantum. I don't know. Your living letters. Whatever. We'll have a good discussion then. But for right now, I need to say goodbye to my peeps, and you guys are just going to have to wait until
next week to see what Daniel and I talk about. It might be the movie. It might be, who knows? We'll see. So thank you again for all of your support. I appreciate every time you like or share or subscribe, or if there's some sort of an engagement that you can do with Spirit-Centered Business, I so appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support and encouragement. I love the comments that you guys leave on the shows. That's always nice. And share us with your friends. And of course, always subscribe to the YouTube channel or wherever you're listening. And a shout out to Kingdom Talks Media and Fringe Radio Network. Thank you for your support and letting me be on the platform with Spirit-Centered Business. Okay. Thank you so much again. And until next time, stay Spirit-Centered. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Spirit-Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being Spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.